So, what is an electrostatic headphone? And why do we care? Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, music lovers and audiophiles. Today I'll be reviewing the HiFiMan Mini Shangri-La electrostatic headphone system. I hope you enjoy this. But first, what the heck is an electrostatic headphone? Well, electrostatic headphones work somewhat differently than much more common dynamic headphones or even planar magnetic headphones, and that difference yields some advantages for serious listening. So-called dynamic drivers use a voice coil that carries the music signal. This moves in a magnetic field to drive a circular diaphragm at the periphery of the diaphragm. Planar magnetics use a larger, flat diaphragm with conductive material for the music signal bonded to the diaphragm. The planar diaphragm has then a grid of magnets around it, not on it, and as with the dynamic driver, the diaphragm moves when the voice coil is attracted or repelled by the magnetic field. Electrostatics sound a lot like planar magnetics in that they have a large diaphragm with conductive material, although that's usually put on there not with wires but with some sort of deposited material. Anyway, the conductive material carries the music signal. The diaphragm and its conducted music signal is attracted or repelled by an electrostatic field, hence the name, rather than a magnetic field. The grid, which is the source of the electrostatic field, has to be energized, so the box that usually comes with electrostatic headphones has at least two functions: creating the DC voltage for the electrostatic grid from an AC input, and secondly, amplifying the source music signal to the level needed to make the headphones work. The idea of electrostatic headphones is to gain the benefit of the large field driving the entire diaphragm as in a planar magnetic, while avoiding the intrinsic distortion of any electromagnetic system, and by making the whole moving system lighter than it would be in a planar magnetic system. The Mini Shangri-La system is electrostatic, and it sells for $2,300 in the US. That includes the Energizer amplifier as well as the headphones themselves. Allotting $800 for the amp, these are, let's say, $1,500 headphones, but please note that you can't use them with a conventional headphone amp. Even at $2,300, we will soon see that these are an excellent value. The Mini Shangri-La headphones weigh 320 grams, or about 7/10 of a pound. That makes them about 2/3 the weight of typical headphones in this price range. That helps with comfort, as does the typical HiFiMan large ear cup, which goes all the way around your ears. I would add, though, that the clamping force is slightly on the high side, so people with larger heads may find this less than perfectly comfortable for long sessions. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Tom Martin, executive publisher of The Absolute Sound and a reviewer here on the TAS YouTube channel. I'd like to invite you to take advantage of a special offer that we have. You can sign up for our weekly newsletter simply by entering your email address either in the form you'll find on screen, or you can click on the link in the show notes below and enter your email address. Twice a week, actually, we will send you audio reviews, written reviews that you won't find here on YouTube, music reviews, and our famous Editor's Choice and Product of the Year awards. This allows you to find the best equipment in audio as well as read our extensive and authoritative review coverage of hundreds of audio products. We would enjoy having you as subscribers, and now back to the show. Okay, as promised, let's talk about sound quality. The Mini Shangri-Las do many, if not most, things right that will matter to most listeners. Let's start with the overall frequency balance on offer here, because that's a big win and it's something that people care a lot about. I want to recall that headphones have to have a very wild native frequency response to mimic the frequency shaping normally done by your head and torso and outer ear. Headphones eliminate the frequency shaping that you are accustomed to for hearing any natural sounds, including music, in a real space. So headphones have to compensate by adding similar frequency shaping to the music signal so that you perceive music to sound natural. The frequency shaping curve is called the Harman target curve, and it looks like this. Now, following this curve is hard, so when we find a headphone that tracks it pretty well, it counts as a win. Now, here is how we hear the HiFiMan Shangri-Las. Remember, this is a perceived response curve, so if a headphone follows the Harman curve perfectly, it should be perceived as sounding flat or balanced. The line on this graph should be a straight horizontal line. Now, in the world of real headphones and real life, that is a darn flat curve. I note that many headphones show variations of 10 dB down or 10 dB up or both, frequently both. So when I say that the response of the Shangri-Las is an achievement, it's in that context. I would add that many listeners want slightly elevated bass. And a second strength of the Shangri-Las is that they have strong and articulate bass that is possibly just a smidge elevated. Doing articulate and powerful bass is the holy grail combination that I think the Shangri-La does better than any headphone this side of the HiFiMan Susvara. That said, these may not be ideal for hip-hop and electronica listeners because I think the bass starts to roll off slowly below 50 hertz. This is almost universally the case with open-back headphones, so listeners who want strong output at, say, 35 hertz will probably want to focus on closed-back designs or be prepared for a very long search. We also get very smooth mid-range with the Mini Shangri-La, and this is an area where I think the headphones surpass the old Susvaras. The new Susvaras just came out and they're on the way for a review soon. They don't sound dark, the Mini Shangri-Las don't sound dark, and instruments mostly sound natural. But the mid-range does have a small issue that I'll return to. In the treble, we get very nice smoothness and detail. I do think the upper mid-range and treble is slightly elevated, but not in an unpleasant way. That, I believe, is because it isn't peaky and is just smoothly emphasized to a small degree. This voicing choice makes the Mini Shangri-La sound clear and lively. I didn't find it edgy or unnatural. It's just more like sitting closer to the music, like you were a few rows from the stage instead of well back. This combination is the real deal, what you asked for set of qualities. There's simply a small but that you should know about if you're super picky. Returning to that small issue, it's in the mid-range. Overall, the Mini Shangri-La can, at times, sound less free and dynamic and open than some headphones at higher prices. I think it might be because they slightly, very slightly, depress the mid-range. I'm not clear that you would notice this per se. I struggled with putting my finger on it, and I found that sometimes the clarity of the Mini Shangri-La had encouraged me to set the volume on the low side so that one move of the detented volume control up the scale, and I was happy. I think another way of commenting on this same issue is to say that the sound space of the Mini Shangri-La is a bit smaller than with other headphones in this class. Now, I don't think headphones do a believable rendition of space, so I wouldn't be too concerned, but you might feel differently. Also, the Mini Shangri-Las have pretty good low-level information retrieval, which counteracts the sometimes slightly closed down spaciousness. I don't test for very high volumes, so as a final point, I can't tell you how these perform at, say, 90 dB average level. Sorry, but there are reasons which I hope you can understand, and honestly, I think you should do as well. The net here is that these headphones do very well on most of what I think listeners care about, and they do it toward the low end of the price range where you can find performance like this. And remember, you get a headphone amp in the package here. I can see someone preferring the exact voicing of another headphone, but that's different than saying another headphone is better. To illustrate, the Meze Empyrean 2 is similarly voiced, but has a slightly different bass profile and a slightly different upper mid-range curve, and one could easily choose one way or the other based on the kind of music you prefer. The Dan Clark Audio E3 is voiced differently, but on certain music might be considered more transparent. But a full system with either of these headphones will cost a bit more, so I have to say, the HiFiMan Mini Shangri-La is an excellent value. In summary, the HiFiMan Mini Shangri-La nails the parameter I find most listeners are very concerned with: powerful but articulate bass. That alone wouldn't be a meaningful thing if the rest of the performance on offer weren't up to par, but it is. The Mini Shangri-La performs superbly across the board. I think you need to hear these if you're shopping in this price range and your musical listening doesn't depend on the bottom octave or on maximum SPL output. I'd say, well done, HiFiMan. I hope you've enjoyed this review of the HiFiMan Mini Shangri-La electrostatic headphone system. If you have, check in the description for a link to sign up for our free weekly newsletters. They contain many more reviews of both music and audio equipment. Thanks for watching.